Hello, everyone, and welcome to the video that will give you all the information you need for your personal training assignment. So please make sure to listen to all the details carefully. And if you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to always send me an email, but hopefully I answer all your questions here in this video. So I'm going to take you first to the case studies. And so before we get there, the purpose of this assignment is to create a personal training program based on the needs of a client. So that's based on their experience, their current training status, and their goals. So with this assignment, you will be making a program for a client. You'll have two case studies to choose from, and I will give the option to those students who do want to try and make a program for themselves. I will explain later how you can go about doing that if you would like to create a program for yourself. So you'll have the option to choose a case study or create a program based on your own training experience and your goals. So let's talk about the case studies first. So I'm going to bring you to the case study. So you have to just scroll down through the document a bit and we'll see case study 1 here. I'm not going to read all the details of the case study. You can go ahead and read that, but I'd like you to read about her background, okay, and her medical history. There's no tricks here about the medical history, but just understanding, that this client is 65 years old. She does have diabetes. She doesn't have major injuries. So just being aware of that, and osteoporosis is something else you want to take a look at. You'll also see the fitness assessment results here, okay? So based on the fitness assessment results, you will have to rate her based on what she got in her fitness assessment. So whether she has that excellent, good, very good score. And there is a separate document, which I will show you after, where you can fill in, you're gonna fill in, and that's gonna be your template for your assignment. You're gonna fill in the results. You'll also see that the client also did some predicted 1-rep max testing, and these were performed on machines, and you'll see the weight that was completed and the amount of reps that were completed. And based on that, we can get a predicted 1-rep max, and based on that, then we can target a percentage of what that client would work at and how much weight you might prescribe for those exercises. So that's why you're going to see this, and that will help you when you are prescribing the machines and the different resistance exercises for your client. So based on all this information that you have here, you should have enough information to create a program for your client. And just noting as well that you will only need to make a week program for them. So it's not like a year plan or anything like that. You'll have a layout for the week, which I'll show you, and then what they will be doing each day of the week. So let's just take a look quickly at the next client. We have another client here who's 40 years old. So younger client, if you'd like to try and make a program for younger or an older client. And then we can see some medical history here where this client has lower back stiffness. So that's something you definitely want to take into consideration. And then we can see the fitness assessment results as well for this client, and the predicted 1-rep max testing on the different machines. So again, you're more than welcome to take a look at that, and you will have to also rate the fitness assessment results as well as getting a predicted 1-rep max based on the results here that we've talked about in class, okay? So based on that, I'm gonna lead you now to the next part, is where you start making the program. So here's all the information of what you'll need to do. So we're going to have to first create a weekly template. That is the first step. And you're going to have to indicate what they're going to do each day of the week, including the rest days. And if it's a rest day, it's a rest day. You just won't leave any days blank. So, you're going to indicate whether they're doing cardiovascular activity that day. Okay, so that's part B. Are they going to walk? Are they going to cycle? What are you going to choose? And the duration. So it's going to be very brief in the weekly template. So you'll say, for example, running for 30 minutes, okay? And then for resistance training, you'll indicate when they're going to complete their resistance training. Be a little specific, not just resistance training. Are they going to do full body resistance training, upper body, lower body, a circuit? Just to be a little more specific than saying resistance training. If it is full body, then just say full body. So you will indicate that on whatever days. If they're doing, let's say, 20 minutes of walking on the treadmill, and then a 30-minute full body resistance training session, on the same day, just put that on the same day. That's fine. It doesn't all have to be on separate days. And then indicating as well when they're going to complete flexibility or mobility training, or is it just a recovery day where you just want them to rest? So do you have a program day where you just want them to stretch instead of completely resting? Maybe you'll program for them 20 minutes of just stretching, the stretching routine, and you could program that on potentially their days off. So I'll just bring you to what that might look like. So taking a look here at an example, we can see, on Monday, 30 minutes jogging outside. On Tuesday, they're going to rest, or they can do a 20-minute walk or some mobility as well. So you can take a look at that, and that's just kind of a good example here to see what a weekly schedule might look like. Okay, so if it's a fully rest day, so Sunday, for example, here, rest, the client doesn't have to worry about anything. And then you can see the resistance training is specified as upper body on Wednesday and Friday, lower body. So I wouldn't follow exactly this because obviously it's going to be specific to your client, but this is just an example of a template you can look at and how I want you to write it out. So if I bring you back to the next part, once you've completed your weekly template, so hopefully you understand now the weekly schedule, that's how we go about doing it. Then you're going to take every day that you've created a workout and you're going to now create the workout for each day. So, if it's only cardiovascular training, then you're just going to be a little more specific of what they're doing. If it includes resistance training, obviously you're going to have to include the exercise they're doing. So let's say you've scheduled them to do 4 days of, structured exercise routine that you've planned. You're going to need one template for each day. So you're going to have one program for each day of what they're going to do. If you feel your client needs to repeat workouts, so let's say, I want to do the same full body workout twice a week. Technically, yes, you can, but for purposes of this assignment, I'd like you to vary a little bit of some of the exercises and how they're performed. So let's say they're doing a squat on one day. Then maybe the other day you can have them do a leg press, for example. So it's not the exact same exercise, but we're targeting the same muscle groups. So I'd like you to do that just so you're not copying and pasting, the same workout and that's all you're doing for your assignment. So I want you to try and do your best, get creative. I want you to think of maybe various circuits that you might be able to do. You could try and maybe incorporate a HIIT workout if you feel it's applicable for these clients, or maybe if you're programming for yourself. You can use supersets, drop sets, while keeping in mind the training status and goals of your client, right? So again, if you do plan on creating a program for yourself, then you might get more creative in your drop sets or supersets and playing around like that. So you're gonna, again, as I said, take each day that you've programmed something and you're now going to put it into the next chart. And so let's take a look at the cardiovascular training template. So you can see here, it's the same thing repeated, but it's showing different days of the week. So for example, on the Monday, this client is jogging for 30 minutes. So now I'm going to explain what they're going to do. So they're going to jog for 30 minutes. So the training method is jogging. They're outside. Their speed is going to be 6 minutes per kilometer pace because that's outside. If they were on the treadmill, you would obviously put in their speed on the treadmill and the incline. For duration, 30 minutes. And then you do need to calculate heart rate reserve. So you need to remember how to do that calculation. So you have to go back into your slides, and I hope you know how to do that by now. And you have all the information you need to calculate your client's heart rate reserve. So you have the resting heart rate, so there should be no issues there. And you need to indicate the percentage heart rate reserve that you are going to prescribe for them. So this is just an example here. This is obviously not the percentages that you need to give for your client, but you need to give a range. So a heart rate reserve range, not just only 60% or only 70%. I'd like you to give a lower and an upper limit. Based on what we talked about in class, I'd like you to pick what you think is the best for this client to start off with for the cardiovascular training. It might not be the same target range for each day. You might have a lower intensity day and a higher intensity day, and that's okay. So making sure that you're putting in the percentages as well as your calculated heart rate reserve in beats per minute. Okay, so please make sure to do that. So another example, so let's say on the Wednesday, the client is walking now on the treadmill for 20 minutes. So you'll see here, because they're on their treadmill, they're going to be at 3.5 miles per hour at 1% incline. So that's how you would indicate their intensity, so the speed and the incline. If it was the bike, you would put in the RPM and the level, right? So don't forget that we have to put a level on the bike, the elliptical, and all the other equipment as well. And then you put your time, and again, as I've talked about, heart rate reserve. Then the rower is another example. So you'll see Friday, the client's going to do 15 minutes on the rower before the resistance training session. They're going to be at level 8 on the rower, and I want their pace to be 2 minutes, 30 seconds for 500 meter. So you could put in your pace like that. You could also put in your strokes per minute. I would either choose your pace for 500 meters. You could do your calories per hour, or you could do the watts. I would recommend, it's up to you, but I would use pace for 500 meters. It's probably the easiest one, but you could use the other ones we've talked about in the lab to indicate the intensity on the rower. Okay, so making sure it's specific to that equipment that you've prescribed, whether it's the step mill, the bike, the elliptical, the rower, whatever you have programmed for the client. So I'll take you back to the instructions here, and I pretty much went through that for the cardiovascular component. So it's over here, and we'll go into the next part in a second, where, again, as I said, you need to indicate the type and cardiovascular training method. They will be, so again, whatever equipment, what method are they using? If you'd like to do some body weight, like calisthenics, such as jumping jacks, mountain climbers, stuff like that, you could. You just need to indicate what they're doing. So I might put in like 5 different exercises, for example, on this day, and doing jumping jacks and high knees and stuff like that. And then I might put it for a certain amount of reps or a duration, and then a target heart rate zone while doing that. You can, if you're comfortable doing that, or you can just stick to using the cardiovascular equipment. All right, and then as we talked about the level, so you need the speed, as we've talked in lab, and then the resistance on the equipment. So what level do you want them to start at? We talked about levels in lab. What do you think is an approximate level that you think this client could start at? Again, this is a case study. It's you know, an idea. We don't know the client exactly, so I'd like you to just kind of give an estimate of what level you might start at for the client. So obviously you're not going to start them at level 20, you know, on the elliptical, which is like one of the highest levels. So be reasonable. You know, do you want them to start at 1, or do you want them to start a little higher? You can give a range if you really want, you know, level 1 to 3. If you wanted to do that, that's okay. So you kind of have something to work with, but just be reasonable with what you're prescribing. So you can see some examples here. It'll indicate how long they're going to be doing the cardiovascular training session for. So 15 minutes, 20 minutes, how long are you prescribing it? And then the intensity, as we talked about. So again, using heart rate reserve, not age predicted max heart rate. You need to do the proper calculations for heart rate reserve. And as I said, you need a range. You can't just put in one number. It needs to be a lower limit and an upper limit. Okay, and again, we went through the example already. So that's the cardiovascular component. So again, you've made your weekly schedule. We program cardio, in this case, 3 days a week, and then I'm going to indicate what they're going to do on each day. Okay, so the weekly schedule is more of just like your very rough guide, and then we go into more detail in the rest of the charts. And these charts are given to you blank in the template, which I'll show you, and you can just directly fill them in. All right, let's move to the next part. I'll go through the instructions first, and then I'll take you to the chart. So then you're going to go into your resistance exercise prescription, right? Where we look at doing the machines, maybe body weight exercises, dumbbells, whatever you feel that would be beneficial for the client. So when you're prescribing a resistance training session, you're going to include dynamic stretches, conditioning exercises, which are your resistance exercises, and then post-workout mobility cool down stretches. So for the first part, you're going to include 4 dynamic stretches, and that's part of the warm-up. So make sure they are sequential, right? In a way where, you know, you're not working at you know, doing burpees first and then, you know, a easy dynamic stretch at the end, like heel scoots, for example, right? So again, thinking of building up intensity, as we've talked about in the lab. And it's a minimum of 4 dynamic stretches. If you want to include a few more, that's fine, but that's the minimum. And so you need to include how many sets they're going to do, how many repetitions, or how long are they going to be doing each stretch for. Okay, if they are doing unilateral stretches, so let's say, for example, they were doing leg swings, you need to indicate that they're going to do 10 reps per side. Okay, because obviously, if you just said 10 reps, does that mean 5 per side or 10 per side? So please indicate that. If you wanted to include some foam rolling or lacrosse ball work, self-myofascial release, you're more than welcome to include that in the warm-up part, in the dynamic stretches. All right, I'll take you to the chart to show you where you would put that. So we have a daily template example right here. You'll see there's going to be several templates given to you. So you'll see a few blank ones. If you need to make more, you just would click on this, press Control-C, and you can copy and paste the whole chart here and create as many as you need. So you'll see here, minimum 4 dynamic stretches. There'll be 4 rows for you. If you wanted to add more, all you have to do is tap on the lower row, and then you can just go to insert, and then, sorry, my thing is blocking here. Sorry, if you go to table design, layout, and you go to insert below, and we can now insert a row below if you would like to add more. So in this case, for example, this client would be doing 2 sets, 15 per side. Because we're doing leg swings, I'm indicating per side. You don't need to include pictures or anything like that, just the sets and reps or duration. You don't need both, okay? So it's not 15 per side and 30 seconds, just one is fine. Also, if you are doing self-myofascial release, then indicate duration per side. If you're going to, let's say, do foam rolling on the quadriceps, 30 seconds per side, that's what you would put. Okay, if you're doing 1 set of each, that's totally fine if you feel that's okay, depending how many dynamic stretches you've chosen. All right, so let's go back to the next part where we now go into the conditioning part. I think this is where this is maybe the hardest part, to make sure that you're appropriately picking the correct exercises that are safe for the client, and also the order is quite important as well. So you're more than welcome to choose machines, body weight, resistance band, dumbbell exercises. That's up to you, what you're comfortable with prescribing. And again, none of these clients are, elite athletes, so we're not programming for high level here. But that's up to you, what you would like to do. So be very specific when you're programming here. So for example, if I were to do a dumbbell chest press, if that's an exercise, then making sure when you are picking the weight, so let's say I'm doing 20 pounds for dumbbell chest press. Well, how much weight per arm is that? So that means I need to indicate 20 pounds per arm, for example. And so is it 2 dumbbells, 1 dumbbell? Am I doing single leg, unilateral? Am I doing it seated? Am I lying on the bench? Am I lying on the ground? So you need to just be specific depending on the exercise that you are choosing. If it's on a machine, right machine, leg press, machine, lat pull down, machine. Okay, so be as specific as possible. So when I read it, and if a client were to read it, they know what you're talking about. Okay, don't just put lat pull down, because that could be using a band too. So be specific. Okay, you'll indicate how many sets, how many reps, how much rest, and the weight. And so the weight, a lot of students do get caught up with, and it gets challenging. So with the weight, don't get so hung up on it. You have the predicted 1 rep maxes, okay, that you will be able to calculate. From there, you can get an idea based on, whether you're programming for muscular endurance, hypertrophy, what are you programming for, and what percentages you want them to work at. By knowing the percentages, you should have a little bit of an idea of what you could start with for weights. So an estimated weight in pounds would be what I'm looking for. You can give a weight range if you'd like, but it can't be like, a 50-pound weight range. Like a 10 to 20-pound weight range is acceptable. But I mean, you can't do 10 to 50 pounds. That's a huge difference. So I mean, you can say 10 to 20 pounds just so you have some leadway if you'd like, but you do have some information about the client, so you can get a little bit more accurate with your weight prescription here. If you do choose to use a band, then indicate what type of band, whether it's a band with handles, is it the full loop band? So are you doing, TerraBand? What are you doing? And then what color are you using, right? So is it a light, medium, or heavy band? You don't really need to be specific on the color because it really depends on the brand. So I would just indicate whether you're using a light, moderate, or heavy resistance band. Okay. And I'll take you to the chart of how you're going to put that in. When you're looking at exercise order, you have different ways that we talked about how you can order your exercises for your client. So you can alternate between upper body, lower body if you'd like. You can do core exercises first, then assistance after. You can alternate between push-pull. If you want to have an upper day on its own and a lower day on its own, you can. Then I would probably use core then assistance exercises as how you're going to order for that day. So again, making sure thinking about larger to smaller muscle groups rather than just, oh, I'm just going to throw 6 exercises into the chart and that's it, right? So be a little bit strategic of how you are going to sequence your exercises. So you'll have a minimum of 6. I'll take you to the chart to show you how to put that in. So here we go. You can put as many exercises you feel the client needs. Hey, if you want 8, go ahead and put 8. Do you need to put 20? No, you don't. So minimum 6. Again, if you'd like to add a few more, sure, no problem. Be specific. Are they doing dumbbell chest press? Are they doing resistance band rows? Are they doing body weight squats? Are they doing leg press machine? Are they doing leg curl machine? So be specific. Okay, that's very important. You will lose marks if you're not specific. You're going to indicate the sets, the reps, and then the weight. So again, you're going to use the estimated weight. So you're going to use the estimated weight that would be reasonable. Okay. Again, give a range, again, 5, maybe 10, 15, 20 pound range. You don't need to do anything more than that because then you're just kind of guessing a huge range here. Also indicate your rest period after each set. So if you do plan to, let's say, do a circuit where they're not going to rest, then you're going to put basically instead of the time, no rest after, which means they go right to the next one. And so maybe, you know, if I were doing another couple exercises here after the lat pull down machine, and then I decide, okay, I'll do a rest after the 4th exercise, you put 45-second rest after completing, you know, first 4 exercises. So you can indicate that. Or I could say example here, 45-second rest after squats and lat pull down. Oops, I can't type. Right, so I could do that, right? To indicate, okay, I'm going to do squat, lat pull down, then I'll take my rest. Okay, if you wanted to do that. Or if you wanted to program rest after each exercise, then you could program that way as well. Thinking of your client, what do you think is best, okay? So you'll see an example here, body weight squat. 3 sets of 15. The weight is body weight, obviously. So BW, you can put for short form for body weight. And 30 seconds rest after completing. Next exercise, for example, lat pull down, 3 sets, 10 reps, 30 pounds, 45-second rest. Again, you don't have to give a weight range. You can just give the actual weight if you are comfortable to give a specific weight, okay? So as I said, minimum 6 exercises. Be considerate of the order. Are you going to go upper body, a lower body alternating? Are you going to do core then assistance exercises? You can decide that, but again, making sure you're going to follow what we've talked about, that, you know, larger to smaller muscle groups, more fatiguing to less fatiguing exercises. Okay, so that is the conditioning component. Okay, then that leads us to the end of the workout where we do our post-workout mobility, and I'll bring you back to the instructions, where we include a minimum of 4 static stretches during the cool down. And this is specific to the muscles that you were using during the workout. And so you're going to include the sets, the repetitions or time, and then an image of the stretch this time. If you are doing unilateral, as we've talked about, so if you're doing each leg, you need to indicate the duration per side. I'll bring you to the chart again. So here we go at the bottom. You could do some self-myofascial release if you'd like as well. So here's an example of some foam rolling the adductors. So in this case, when the client is done, they're going to do 1 set, 30 seconds per side of the foam rolling of the adductors. And then I'm going to include a small image here that I'll copy and paste from Google. I'm not going to require you to cite them of where the images are from. That's okay. Just find an image and that's it. Okay. Minimum 4. If you want a few more than 4, that is fine. Okay. All right. So That is basically what you need to do for your assignment. Okay, so again, you're going to make your weekly schedule. You're going to include your cardiovascular training components, and then you're going to include your resistance training. So if you've programmed 4 days of resistance training, you're going to need 4 of these charts here. I'm going to take you to the blank template of what it will look like where you're going to fill in. So this is what you will be filling in and you will be submitting on DC Connect. So this is posted for you as well. And you're going to fill in all this information here. So you're not creating your own file, you're going to use this. So you're going to put in your name, you're going to put in your case study number that you've chosen, whether it's 1 or 2. If you're creating your own program, then you'll just put in own program. Okay, so you're not choosing a case study. So from here, you're going to include the score results from the fitness assessment if you are doing the case study. And you're going to get a health benefit rating zone. If you do go back to the previous document, let's do that quickly. I gave you the charts, so they are there for you. So you'll see the charts are included, which have all the fitness assessment results, and you can now get a score of excellent to poor rating, including aerobic fitness here as well. I also gave you the predicted 1 rep max. So this is the chart that you can use to predict 1 rep max for the client. Okay, so we'll come back to our blank chart. So once you've completed the fitness assessment results, you'll then go to the predicted 1 rep max chart. You're going to put in what is the client's predicted 1 rep max for each of the exercises that are listed. And then you're going to put in the percent that you want to prescribe for them. So are you going to prescribe 50 to 60% 1 rep max? What are you planning to prescribe for them based on what you've learned for the different ranges, whether they're, focusing on endurance, hypertrophy, or strength? These clients here, you probably will be muscular endurance. I'll tell you that most likely. But maybe hypertrophy if you have some good reasoning. If you're programming it for yourself, you might be higher percentages, okay? So you can just put in the percentages here. You'll see a blank weekly schedule. So this is where you're gonna fill in what the client is going to do each day. And then here's the cardiovascular training blank. You'll put in the day of the week. If it's only 2 days a week, you only need to put in 2. If you have more, then you're going to have to copy and paste and add in a 4th day. So if you just basically highlight everything, you can copy and paste. Hopefully we know how to do that. And then here is the template for the resistance training. That includes your dynamic stretches, your cool down stretches, and your resistance exercises. At the top here, I'd like you to delete this and indicate what day of the week this was. So Friday, lower body resistance training, for example. So Friday, lower body resistance training. So that's what you're going to be doing on that day. So I'd like you to insert the workout name here. Okay, so you'll see a template. You'll have 1, 2, 3 of them there for you. If you need to add more, all you need to simply do, copy and paste the table and paste it onto a new page. So minimum 3, ideally. If you'd like to, as I said, add more, you can. As I said as well, you're not repeating the same workout 3 times a week. Okay, so you're going to have to change it up a bit. All right, so that's the template that you will be filling in and submitting to DC Connect. I'm going to finish off if you do decide to create a program for yourself, what you have to do a little bit differently for me, just so I get some information when I see your program, I kind of get an idea. So here's this a separate document posted for you if you choose to create a program for yourself. If you're doing it for yourself, unfortunately, you will have to submit on your own. So this assignment, you have the option to work with a partner or on your own. If you're with a partner, then you're going to do a case study. If you're on your own, then you can create a program. Okay, so that's going to be up to you if you'd like to create a program for yourself or not. Okay, so if you decide to create the program for yourself, there's a Get Active questionnaire form that is posted for you on DC Connect that you do need to fill out and submit with your assignment. Just so I can see, do you have any, injuries or anything that you're working with when you're creating a program for yourself, and are you programming appropriately? So that's why I'd like you to fill that out and submit it with your assignment. So that's one extra thing you need to do. I'm sure you filled it out before, so it shouldn't take too long to do anyways. So you will follow the same instructions. You'll still have a weekly template. You're still going to create, your resistance training. Everything's going to be the same. It's going to be tailored to you. And so you just need to answer a few extra questions for me before you submit. So on this document, you'll put in your name, your age, male or female, resting heart rate, and your resting blood pressure. You should already know this from doing it several times in fitness assessment. From there, you're going to just give me a few answers to some of these questions here, just so I get an idea of your resistance training experience or your physical activity level. So just answering these questions, if you do currently perform a resistance training routine or not, how many days are you doing it? Would you classify yourself as beginner, intermediate, advanced? And you're going to go ahead and answer these questions and answer your exercise goals. So then I know what you're programming for, so I can mark you accordingly if you are creating a program for yourself. And that's all you need to do extra, but you're still going to submit that template, and this is going to be the main document that you will submit, okay? If you do have results of your fitness assessment results, fill it in, because then that's great. That gives me more information. You probably won't be able to have a predicted 1 rep max for anything, but perhaps if you'd like to add in some exercises that you currently do and what weight you do, you can kind of change some of these. Feel free to ask me if you do choose to do it, again, for a program for yourself. You can give me some information of kind of what you currently do. And again, that gives me a better idea of how you're programming for yourself. So weekly schedule as well, you'll create. And again, exactly the same thing. You're going to program your cardiovascular training and the different workouts. Okay. So again, minimum 3 workouts, and it's the same thing, but you're just programming for yourself based on your goals and your experience. So that is basically a summary of your assignment and what to expect. If you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to send me an email. And I hope that answers any questions you might have had about this assignment, but I will always open up some time in class as well if you do have questions. So hopefully that helped, and good luck completing your assignment.